Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Celia Williams, executive producer and presenter for the NAB show Super Sessions.
Good morning, and what a wonderful welcome. Thank you so much. It is great to see you all here on day 2 of NAB Show 2015 here at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And we have just the most amazing treat for you this morning. I can see the room is packed. They're standing, they're queuing. My goodness, you did well to get down here. I saw you here very early. Okay, so The Walking Dead has been the #1 show across all television among young adults 18 to 49 for going on 3 years. NAB Show are proud to present to you today Steven Yeun, comic book creator and series executive producer Robert Kirkman, and AMC president Charlie Collier, as they provide a rare perspective on the continuing evolution of AMC's captivating drama. Moderated by TV Guide magazine's executive editor Michael Schneider, the panel will also explore the key elements underpinning the show's continued success in this golden age of television. To introduce our panel to the stage, I'd like to introduce another very special person, the president of NAB Show, Mr. Gordon Smith.
Thank you, Celia. She is such a delight to work for. You know, NAB Show is obviously in Las Vegas, but we do events in Barcelona and Dubai and now in Shanghai, and Celia is a good part of that. As I look around this room, I think it is a standing room only now, and that is emblematic of what a remarkable show The Walking Dead is. But I'm here to welcome you at 9 in the morning in Las Vegas. And I congratulate you all. Anyway, it is such a pleasure to, at the NAB Show, to provide valuable forums to discuss innovative content creation that connects with passionate audiences. And passionate is a great word to describe the fans that tune in each week to watch apocalypse survivors, desperate to find safe haven from flesh-eating zombies known as walkers and biters. How's that for 9 in the morning in Las Vegas? With its comic book roots, The Walking Dead has gripped audiences from the very beginning, when it debuted in 2010 and has been the #1 show on television for 3 years running. When season 5 wrapped last month, the show had its highest rated season ever and the highest rated finale ever. The show has been so popular, in fact, that AMC has ordered a companion series, Fear of the Walking Dead, that will air this summer, much to the delight of fans. The critically acclaimed show has already received numerous accolades and honors, including Golden Globe and Emmy nominations, from its incredible special effects makeup to its innovative marketing efforts. This is amazing. Its marketing efforts included a worldwide zombie invasion to hype the debut, and The Walking Dead from then has continued to push boundaries. Without a doubt, this show has become a pop cultural phenomenon, and we're so thrilled to have The Walking Dead's key players with us here today, and even this early in the morning in Las Vegas. Leading today's discussion is the executive editor of TV Guide magazine, Michael Schneider. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Michael to us. So Michael, the stage is yours.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for mentioning it is 9 in the morning, so I think it's appropriate. We're doing The Walking Dead right now. A couple of you actually look like The Walking Dead, so thanks for making it up this early. We've got a great panel for you. Obviously, The Walking Dead, the biggest show in television, in both 18 to 49 and total viewers. Not bad for a little show on AMC, a little cable network that until a few years ago was running old movies. Now, of course, a big network with a lot of big hits like Walking Dead and Better Call Saul and a lot more. So before we bring out our panelists, we're going to run a little clip just to give you a little refresher of The Walking Dead.
You are not safe. No matter how many you were around, or how clear the air looks, you are not safe. Never let you calm down, never. It only takes 1 second. 1 second, and it's over.
Going to mention this, the show's finale on March 29 reached 20.5 million viewers and 13.6 million adults 18 to 49 live +3. That ain't bad. Let's meet our panelists right now. First up, the president and general manager of AMC, Charlie Collier. He oversees the creative and business operations of AMC and Sundance TV as of a few weeks ago. He joined AMC as general manager in 2006, was promoted to president in 2008, and named Sundance TV chief in just a couple weeks ago in 2015.
And thank you for all that applause. I know you're here to see me.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're coming.
And oversaw the transformation of AMC into a powerful force in television. Yada yada yada. You've heard the spiel.
Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Robert Kirkman, the writer and executive producer of The Walking Dead. Of course, the successful creator of independent comics. He created and continues to write The Walking Dead, as well as many others. His latest title, Outcast, is being turned into a Cinemax series. He's even got a movie coming out later this year, Air, Mr. Robert Kirkman. And finally, his early credits included guest stints on The Big Bang Theory, Warehouse 13, and Law & Order LA. Most recently, he appeared on Drunk History and Comedy Bang Bang, but of course, you guys know him as Glenn on The Walking Dead, Mr. Steven Yeun.
Oh, there you go, man.
Hello? Sure.
Yes.
Get the hug.
Yeah,
All right. Exactly. Thanks, guys, for coming and being here at NAB.
We all like each other.
Yeah. You're still fans of each other. That's great. We just wrapped up the season a couple of weeks ago. So first thing we should say is spoiler alert. If you guys haven't watched the finale, A, what is wrong with you? It's been a couple of weeks, guys. We can't save it forever. But B, we may be talking about some things that happen in the finale. So cover your ears. Sorry, Glenn, about your character. He passed away, of course.
Right.
Right. Just testing you guys.
I need a job.
Yes. Honestly, though, we had some kick-ass moments for Glenn in the finale. Talk about that and the fact that, A, you're still here, which is great, but B, there were some moments in that finale where we weren't quite sure what was going to happen to Glenn. So.
Glenn is resilient. He's a tough dude, and I was talking to Robert and Charlie in the back just about how great it was this particular season to get to show Glenn and get to really see his development. You kind of saw that in the first season, and you visited him as kind of a singular person, and this was the other season kind of bookending where it was like we get to see him as a singular person as well again, and to see how much he's changed over the years. So it was really fun.
I mean, Carol has evolved a lot. All the characters have evolved, but Glenn really has evolved from when we first met him as a pizza delivery boy and a gopher, basically. What's that been like to play this character in this evolution and to sort of turn into this kick-ass character?
It's been maybe it's basically an actor's dream. So thank you too for allowing that, but.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's a dream, especially considering you get to see this evolution over the course of a long-term story in front of an audience such as the audience that we've built at this point. And so it's been really fun to show different aspects of you as an actor, and then also to get to have someone follow you and then finish, with you at the end. Not that it's done, we'll see.
Hoping for a season 6.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
But
we're announcing the pickup today.
The journey is really fun. It's very fun.
And Rob, let's talk about the season that just ended. It's obviously we've followed the characters as they sort of nomadically go from place to place. It seems like, Alexandria, there was some rough moments, but at the end of the season, they've found this place, and it's been tense, but there's a chance they could be here for a while now.
I think there's a very good chance they could be here for a while. And I love the show for a lot of reasons, but the thing that makes me most excited is, it's the evolution of all these characters, like you say about Glenn and everything, but the show continues to evolve and tell different stories each season. And, so often we've been telling stories about, characters on the run, characters surviving in the wilderness, characters, struggling to, make their way in the world. And I think more so than the prison, more so than some of the other places they've stayed at, Alexandria is really shaping up into a very interesting world in and of itself that, they might be able to, develop in and, actually survive in a much different way, which will, allow us to have a really cool progression for season 6 that'll make things that much more different, that much more engaging.
And what's that like from a production standpoint in that the show moves from set to set? You have to say goodbye to the prison set.
It makes it the easiest show and the cheapest show in the world to produce, because we're always using the same sets. We're, always using the same locations. It's great. It's a bear. I mean, we always say, our crew is the best crew in television, and, it's because this is one of the most difficult shows to produce. I'm not a television expert. This is actually the first show I've ever worked on, but a lot of the other people, like we'll talk about Tom Luce, our line producer. Tom, great guy. Well, every now and then we'll say, another line producer would lose their mind trying to produce this show, and the fact that our team, is able to make it happen every week is pretty insane.
It's more physically daunting than you would imagine. You hear television production and you think, catering and carts. You watch this crew and they're often in the woods trying to get a shot on the side of a hill while, it's 100 degrees in Atlanta. It is amazing what they do and how they move and how they get it done, within a few days. You think an entire episode, gets done just less than 2 weeks. That's pretty remarkable, and it's a workout.
Well, you get the call every once in a while. All right, they're torching the set. They're moving on to another one. They got to build a new set. So, as you're counting the beans, that's a challenge.
Well, the good news about The Walking Dead is that the vision Robert laid out in the comic books, obviously, there's such clarity to his vision. It doesn't surprise us that these people are on the road. He's never surprised us that he's wanted to make this world as really thoughtful and realistic as it's been. So it's been a good partnership. Yeah.
Well, Glenn, you spent a good season in the wilderness for the most part. Is it nice to sort of be acting back in terra firma a little bit, back in civilization?
Yeah, it's nice. It's
I ask you because I heard a tick story that you had some.
Yeah, that was season 2. That was not fun.
I get to hear that story again.
I know, it's great.
I found a tick on. Not a place that you don't want to find a tick. But you know,
Which for me is any place. But
yeah. No, it's okay certain parts.
oh, sweet, it's on my arm.
When you see it once there, you'll be glad that it's anywhere else.
Okay.
But
He's talking about his nose.
9 a.m. at the NAB. There you go.
Exactly.
yeah.
It's I hope you all had your breakfast already.
It's been nice, you know, but at the same time, we always kind of fiend to get back. We're all kind of ready. We all check in the off season. We're like, you guys ready to go back? And everybody's gung ho. So I'm excited.
Well, Robert, what can you tell us about season 6? I know you can't tell
Absolutely nothing.
us a lot, but we can try.
No, look, I can, you know, go off of what the last thing we saw was.
Yeah, and
I think having Rick and Morgan together finally again is a huge deal.
We've been waiting for this for a long time.
And it's definitely going to be a big part of season 6, as well as this guy here. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with him as well.
So
we'll leave you out.
Thanks.
But
So we're going to see a lot more Morgan. It's not a one and done kind of thing. He's sticking around for a while.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really exciting for us just because there's so much history for Rick and Morgan, and you haven't really, you know, seen them interact very much. But there's a lot of meaningful interaction in their past, and we've seen them at so many different stages between when we first met them in the pilot episode, and then when we saw them in Clear, the episode where, you know, Morgan had seemingly gone crazy, and now it's a very different Rick and a very different Morgan who are going to have a completely different relationship. And it's the questions of, you know, how they're going to interact, if they're going to work together, if they're not going to work together, and what comes from those interactions is going to be basically the spine of season 6.
Let's talk about the show as a phenomenon. One of the things I hear now is that there's a crowd of people sort of always like congregating outside the set. Pretty much, they spend the night, they camp out just to kind of catch a glimpse. What's that like, Steven, to have kind of these groupies out there? But Robert, you jump in too.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't need to talk.
Groupies at your house?
I was going into the producer's trailer to like check my email or something, and it was, you know, way away from set, and it was when we were filming at Terminus, and I'm opening the door and I hear, hey, Robert, hey. And I'm like, what's going on? And like on the other side of a fence behind some bushes, there's like 6 people there. And they're like, yeah, we thought you were here. Can you sign some books? oh, okay. And so I was like feeding books through a chain link fence, and like I was taking pictures like through a chain link fence. We have no security on that.
I hope you don't mind, right?
That sounds like a larger issue, yeah.
But they're everywhere. They're, you know, like people love this show, and you know, like they're.
Well, they're often in costume too. I mean, you'll drive out of the set, and across the street are just people camped out, dressed like your characters, and it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy to see that the show kind of permeates not even just in that world, but in the physical world. Like you can go to Sonoy, and there's industry based on the show. Right. Like the town is built off the show, essentially. Yeah. And that to me is crazy bizarre.
What do you make of that, Robert? I mean, this is an industry now.
It all goes to my head.
So I'm sure it does.
No, I mean, Sonoy is this nice little town that's right next to the stages that we film on, and a lot of the, you know, it was actually the stand-in for Woodbury, you know. So when you're watching the show and you see Woodbury, that's Sonoy, Georgia, and there's always people on the street, no matter what time you go there. And it's like, you can clearly tell that they're like, oh, that's where the governor's apartment was. And they're just like walking around and pointing the whole time. And it's just really weird.
I think we should track what it does for real estate values. If the governor lived in your apartment, you know.
Yeah.
We'll film here, but we need a piece of the upside.
Right.
Real estate goes
I was going
up.
to say, does Kirkman get a cut? But this is
Kirkman tries to always get a cut.
This is an empire. So how do you manage what has become an empire? The you know, beyond the show and the comic, you know, there's novels, there's merchandise, there's so much, and you're doing other comic books, you're doing other shows, you're doing a movie. How do you sort of keep hands on making sure that Walking Dead stays true to your original vision?
Wait, you're doing other stuff?
Come on, man! What are you doing to me? We'll talk.
Okay.
But you know, I think the honest truth is, you know, I'm not doing all this stuff by myself. I think, having the amazing showrunners and Scott Gimple and Dave Erickson, who's working on Fear the Walking Dead, the novels I do with Jay Bond and Singa, picking talented people to work with, picking people that, it's not just a job for them, it's something that they're really invested in, something they really care about. Scott Gimple can, he reminds me of things that happen in the comic often. I think he definitely knows those things better than I do. He doesn't refer to them as those things, for one. But I think, having AMC, a network that, actually really cares about this, getting notes from them is like, now that I work with a lot of different networks and stuff now, and it's always a treat to get notes from them because they always ask the right questions and they always, seem to understand the material, in a really unique way. And it's just, I think just, really working with great people and making sure that everyone at every different level of working on various aspects of The Walking Dead, really care about making the best stuff.
It started as a passion project for almost everybody we ran into. And I think actually, go back to the cast and crew, people do rush back to this show. They build the rest of their year around getting back to the show, in not just the people who are under contract, but people who just want to be there. And I think everyone who works on it at AMC takes it very personally and tries to sort of see that passion continues to everyone who comes into the mix.
Yeah, it's worth going back to the very beginning. Robert, you originally developed The Walking Dead at a broadcast network, but then eventually...
We don't need to talk about that.
at the NAB. But talk about bringing it to AMC and ultimately how it turned into what we see today. And Charlie, you too, what was your first reaction when a zombie project hit your doorstep?
Well, I'll tell you this. If you have the compendium that they put out, which is a collection of the first works of the graphic novel. He writes a foreword that we literally copied, handed out to the staff, and tried to live by. And it talks about, and I'll paraphrase, you can do much better, but it talks about...
I hear about this 800-word thing I put in a book when I was like 21 all the time, so...
But think about, here's what it said in far too summarized form. It said, we all love what a zombie movie is, but when, they go to the end of the movie and they're on the dock holding hands and the sun is rising or setting, I always wondered, well, what happened then? They have to live, and how do you become a good parent in the apocalypse? And who are you going to be? And you got this pizza guy who is chosen and not chosen to become a leader of people in such a meaningful way. And it was a character drama, like so much of what we had done. And then it was a zombie story, and we've tried to hold true to that and took it very seriously. So we sort of trot out those 800 words quite a bit just to make sure we never. Try to call it a zombie show because it's so much more.
I would definitely say that I had a very weird, unnatural passion for zombie stories, just because, like I say, when I would watch them, I wouldn't really see the zombies tearing people apart. I would look at the people and be like, what happens next? Where's this going? I gotta find out more. So that's what we try to do. But look, all the development phases and all the early stuff, working with AMC, at every step of it, they're approving scripts, and I'm like, they're not going to make this show. We're filming the show, and I'm like, they're not going to put this on air.
You kept saying that. It's you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this.
I never in a million years thought that it would actually happen, just because, and I have to give AMC credit for this. They never should have made it. It's such a strange proposition to do a television show where human people are dead and they're eating other people. It's just the weirdest, think about it, before The Walking Dead's on TV, no one is going to put that on TV. And so I'm sitting there the whole time going, look, people like the comic, but you guys are crazy.
So if you're going to pitch a piece of material, I advise you lead with that. You guys are nuts. You shouldn't do this.
Exactly, and then it'll become the #1 show on television.
Well, it is always amazing to me that, and not just obviously our work, but all of these start with an agreement. You bet on a great piece of talent, and then it starts with an agreement to go. And sure, you look back and it looks easy once the thing worked, but I guess I'm glad we didn't really hear that portion of the pitch. You talked a lot about character.
Most of that I was saying to myself, but...
Well, Robert, you've said in past interviews that you could see the comic go for 1,000 issues.
Yeah.
So up until you're 99, and at that point,
I hope to die with the comic unfinished.
Oh no!
Issue number 999.
I'm going to keep eating cheeseburgers.
But You've said you hope eventually the story sort of, as society sort of rebuilds and redeems itself, that eventually you might get to that point where, it becomes this story of hope and rebirth and a new society.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, it is viewed as a somewhat bleak, story, but I definitely see it as a hopeful, uplifting story. But it's because I can see the
You can see that, right?
You see the long tail.
Yeah, most people are seeing like this little cross section and like, wow, this is really depressing. These poor people are living through a lot of stuff. But it's a means to an end. And one of the most exciting things about season 5 and season 6 is that we are finally starting to get to a point in the story where the characters are kind of getting a foothold. They're kind of, getting to a position where they can start thinking in different ways and moving in different directions and surviving in the world in a little bit more of an efficient, not so depressing kind of way. So, and I mean, I thank everybody for supporting the show, just because, like, having this stupid idea of doing The Walking Dead as a zombie movie that never ends is like one thing, but having people support it to the point where you can actually tell that story over a long period of time, I feel very fortunate.
Well, as long as there's always a way for Greg Nicotero to come up with another disgusting zombie. Like, he's got to top himself every year. Right. Steven, you've been in the second most episodes, just behind Andy Lincoln, of The Walking Dead. So your place in this show, pretty firm, right? Pretty secure?
Yeah.
Now, folks who have read the comics may question it, but I mean, you're such a fan favorite.
Oh, I don't think...
Nothing could ever happen to Glenn, right?
So popular.
So popular.
We don't kill the popular characters.
How do you feel?
I'll go. You just finish the panel on your own. I'm sorry.
I feel, I felt this way since about season 4, and it's not that I felt that the story of Glenn was completely complete by any means, but it was more the idea that, being on here minimum 4 seasons of a show that's as big as it's become is kind of great in itself. You're content in the fact that you got to be part of something that might go down, or probably will go down in history as something substantial. And after that, cool. If I go, that could happen. And I just know that also, the way that we make the show and the writers and everybody really want to focus on making things poignant and purposeful and meaningful. And so if it were for Glenn to go, then it's probably going to be awesome.
You guys are very zen about this. I guess you have to be if you're an actor on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a clip actually of a great Glenn moment from earlier this season. So let's take a look at Glenn kicking ass right now.
Forever.
It was a fake punch.
Yeah, I'm glad Rick finally shaved. I feel like you still need to hose Daryl down just a little bit. I don't know.
Norman Reedus is better dirty, trust me.
Let's
You clean that guy up, you lose the magic.
That's true. That is true. That's worth at least a ratings point. The dirt, the grime. Let's talk about the companions.
Put more dirt on him every season. ratings go up.
That's
I'm
how.
saying it's connected.
That's the secret.
That is it.
That is the secret. Let's talk about the companion series. So, Fear the Walking Dead, which you guys just revealed the title. First off, tell me about the title. How you guys came on Fear the Walking Dead.
I think, look, I haven't prepared how to answer this question yet because it's very early in the process, so I'm going to wing it. But
Everything else was completely
everything
canned.
else is rehearsed. You don't want to call it Fear. You don't want to call it The Walking Dead Los Angeles. I think that's the exact. That's like the wrong vibe.
That's Dick
for all
Wolf's.
this. And so
Walking
yeah,
Dead.
exactly. So
We had a long conversation about it. I mean, we
just,
talked.
it's so easy. It's so obvious. It's like the thing that you would think of, and it's the exact wrong thing for what we're trying to do. This is its own thing. It's still The Walking Dead, but it's a show that can stand on its own, and when you see it, you'll know what we're talking about. But I'm really proud of the fact that if you sit down and watch this show, you're like, okay, this is providing me with my own experience. It's clearly, in the Walking Dead universe, but there's nothing in the other show that I have to understand to watch this. I can completely enjoy it on its own, but it does add to the overall experience. And so we wanted to come up with a title that pays homage to did I just murder that word? I don't use it very often. Homage, whatever. Homemade. It's a home wizard of The Walking Dead, but has its own spin on it. And to me, it means a lot of things. I think that it's taking us back to a time when The Walking Dead were much more dangerous and a much more ever-present threat. And so it's definitely a time to fear The Walking Dead. But I've always liked the fact that The Walking Dead refers to the zombies and the people that, we're exploring, because they are, in a sense, all just on borrowed time. And it's possible that the people that we're following in this show are maybe a little bit more deadly in certain ways.
We obviously saw a little teaser, so it looks to be a little bit of an origin story, but I know you've mentioned also that eventually it is going to catch up in time to basically be around the same time that the mothership.
It's not a prequel in that, at the end of this series, Rick will wake up from his coma. We're not doing that.
Right.
But we are going to be on different timelines that will overlap.
How much will we get into a little more of the origins of how this virus began? Will you be tackling much of that, or you're smiling at me because I know you can't say
not
much?
as much as people think,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it's not the priority. It's not the priority in Walking Dead. It's not the priority in Fear the Walking Dead. This is about characters' struggle and how they survive in this world. It's not about fixing this world, and it's not about learning what the cause is. And I feel like that's every other story deals with that kind of stuff. We're dealing with the heart, of this. And
Well, what I find interesting about going back to the time that Fear the Walking Dead will take place is you, the viewer, know more about what's happening to these characters than they do because you've lived through The Walking Dead. And there's a heightened level of sensitivity that when someone says, I'm sure we'll be fine. You go, oh, I'm not so sure. And that brings a whole. It really is a fresh take on it. I think you put it well. On an additive world, it's not something you've seen before, but it's still The Walking Dead.
And because of that, there's going to be a lot of moments in the show where our characters are sitting down drinking tea, and the whole time you're like, what's going to happen? This isn't going well. Right. I know what this world is, and they don't know what this world is yet.
Right.
This is not good. Right. So there's like an underlying tension to things that is just kind of plugged in that we almost don't even have to set up.
Yeah. The tea integrations are really why we built the show.
Right.
It's going to be great.
Lipton's presents Fear the Walking Dead.
It'll be great.
What other?
Lipton is good tea.
What other brand extensions do we? You get the movie question all the time, but eventually you're going to have to make a movie, right? A Walking Dead movie.
I love the way you say that. Yeah, sure. Let's just make one.
Let's just do it.
Charlie, we have to now.
No.
No, I actually think it's great that we don't have to. I think that, in a sense, we're doing a movie every week, and I don't think that anyone is ever watching The Walking Dead going, it's just not enough scope. Sure, it's a possibility, it's out there and everything, but I don't think we're in any kind of a rush to do that, just like we weren't in any kind of a rush to do a companion show.
Right. Yeah. Well, you look 5-6 years ago, well, it was probably a little longer, if an agent in Hollywood recommended that their movie star actor came to TV, they would get fired. And now, if they don't recommend their movie star actor for TV, they get fired. And that evolution of the type of storytelling that, to watch your character for 5 years become who he's become is so, it's just such a wonderful movie-like weekly opportunity that I've never felt rushed to try to tell it in a different format, because I think we have the right one.
That said, we have a big announcement.
Right, exactly.
The Walking Dead Paris.
Exactly.
The show is big internationally, so
It
at
is.
some point your international partners are going to come to you and say, overseas, why not?
Right.
If they haven't already.
By the way, can I just point out, we have what are called confidence monitors up here, and they have commercials on them. It inspires no confidence whatsoever. It says...
I gotta buy some coffee.
It's got coffee on it, so anyone else want a cup of coffee?
They would like you to leave here immediately and buy that from AMC
Exactly.
back in the office.
This is targeted advertising. It's going right at the four of us.
I was gonna say,
It's great.
not the best ad buy.
Right, exactly.
What
It's an audience of 4.
Right, exactly.
Telling you.
How do I reach the head of The Walking Dead? Oh, we're at the NAB. We can do that.
That is programmatic.
Right.
What do you guys ask the most when people run up to you on the street or on the plane? What's sort of the question that you get the most?
Oh, geez. Steven, you have to do this one first.
Usually, are you gonna die?
Right. Which, if you're sitting next to him on a plane, is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't know who he is. You're like, I don't know what's going on.
As an actor, that's the question you want, right? So how much longer is this gig going to last?
Yeah. Well, no, they're talking about my real life, so that's.
Yeah, that's weird. That's very weird.
When are you gonna die? No, I don't know. It's a mixed bag. People are really excited about this show, and it's awesome. Sometimes it's intense, and sometimes it's awesome.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, you pretty much get a mixed bag, but I think the consensus that you get is, whoa, Maggie's so hot. And then, when are you gonna die?
When is your hot self going to die?
Yeah.
And strangely, Kirkman, you get the same question.
I do.
You're so hot, and when are you going to die?
I say, when are you going to die? We're really worried about you finishing those comics.
Right.
So,
But,
and you tell him I am not George R.R. Martin.
I am definitely no George R.R. Martin. But I feel so bad for that guy. So annoying. I can only imagine. But give the guy time. They write novels.
Exactly.
They're not comic
Those are
books, for
thick
God's
books.
sake.
Right.
But,
Those take time.
It's true.
Well, you know,
More work. I think it's cool because I get very specific questions often, like especially when the show's running, it'll be like very targeted, like, why'd that guy say that one thing? What's happening in this next episode? Like, what's going on?
Right.
And it's really cool because like people are really up to date on the show and really paying attention.
in episode 507, in scene, the third act.
And I say, I don't remember. The problem for me is like when the last half of season 5 is airing, like I'm in the writer's room with Scott and the other writers, like knee deep in season 6. And so a lot of times I'll be like, what about that one thing with that one character? And I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh no, that's season 6. What am I doing? No, hey, abort. Like it's tough to keep it all in my head.
It's funny, we mentioned, we just briefly mentioned Game of Thrones, but they're kind of going through something interesting right now because they finally just now are deviating from those books, and it's a big story. And you made the decision at the very beginning not to be, to treat your books as gospel. And that's paid off because you never get that, well, you're doing it differently anymore because people now know your apparatus, the way you do it. So.
I mean, I think that providing 2 different experiences for those 2 different audiences is very valuable. I also think that it's lended to the success of The Walking Dead overall in all its different mediums. The fact that the video game and the novel series, they all offer their own set of characters and their own worlds and their own stories that don't really borrow too much from each other. I think providing that unique experience is valuable. Right. I think the fact that, if you love the Walking Dead TV show, you can and should, and please do, go out and buy the comics. But by reading the comics, you can enjoy that story and kind of get a sense of maybe what we're going to do sometimes.
Well,
but
and
you're still going to be surprised.
Well, you get gifts when Carl sat with the pudding. You know, it was a great moment for fans of the comic book to feel like they got something just for them. And then for the TV show, you know, Carol and Daryl come to mind. They're not in the comic book, and they allow you to have a different experience with the TV show.
Yeah, and Charlie, how about you? When you're on a plane or something and you tell people, I head up AMC, what do they ask you next?
Yeah, by the way, he sits down on every plane and says, hey, just want to let you know, head up.
Right, exactly. How you doing? They say the movie theaters? And I say, no.
Right. See?
No,
Breaking Bad, this guy. I've seen him do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the two questions I got were, what's going on in the rest of the world during the zombie apocalypse? So we've started to address that. And the compliment that feels the best is, if they hear about AMC, and I certainly don't lead with it, is, I never thought I'd watch a zombie story, and now I love it. It's not a zombie story. They're like flies. It's all about the people. You know, they learn how to live with the zombies, and you'll be sitting next to a woman who says her favorite show is Downton Abbey, but she now loves Walking Dead. And you think, well, how does that happen? And the reason is because you succeeded doing what you said you would do, which is you got into the soul of it, and the world sort of falls away. I tell you, a lot of people talk to me about leadership as it relates to the characters in The Walking Dead, because the decision of who you're going to be when the shit hits the fan, right? And you say, all right, you're one of the last dozen people on Earth. Who are you going to be? Are you going to lead or follow? Are you going to stay or go? Are you going to hunker down and wait for people to return? Or are you going to go find them? And again, sitting up here with you, and your character certainly has just gone through that metamorphosis. So we've actually done online courses about, you know, how to survive the zombie apocalypse, and all the different ways into these characters' decisions are, you know, people talk to me like it's real. And I love that. It means it touched their lives in a different way. And then I stab them in the head. Right, exactly. Which, you know, just to bring it home, you know.
Too many viewers.
Exactly.
You've got a few spare. I mean, Robert, you mentioned all again, talking about the book. There's so much now. What is canon? Or can you even say what canon is?
Canon. The comic is the only one that matters. But I don't know. They're all in their own canon, I think. You know, there's certainly a set of, you know, stories in the show that you know, those matter to the show but don't apply to the comics. I mean, I don't know, it's the canon, whatever. You know, I don't ever want to be in a position where 30 years from now, you know, I'm going, these Star Wars novels are not canon, and these are novels, and this is doing this, and this is working in here, and this matters, and this doesn't. Here's a flow chart. You've messed up along the way.
Right. The Church of Kirkman. You'll see level 7S is really incredible.
I think I just watched a documentary about that.
Don't reveal my master plan. It is a religion.
We're going to have questions in a few minutes, so if you want to start lining up at the microphone, we're going to give you a chance to ask these guys what is canon, what's not canon. So we've got a mic there.
It's all canon.
And a mic there. Right. The question I know you guys also get a lot of these days, because it's Emmy season again, is where are the Emmys? And have you sort of just come to terms with the fact that for whatever reason, it's not a show that the TV Academy is recognizing, or
I hate that. I don't care about Emmys. Like, I guess it's nice if a show gets an Emmy, but like, there's so many amazing shows. The Wire comes to mind, The Shield, that get no Emmys. And it's like, you know, the Emmy community gets some things, they don't get some things. They're not the only group that gets to decide what's good and what's not good. You know, I guess I'd like to have a statue someday, maybe, I don't really care. But, you know, I feel honored to be among, you know, the other shows that don't win Emmys.
there you go. That being said, justice for Steven Yeun. Yes, justice for Steven Yeun.
Right.
I have a fourth grade science fair victory, son.
Right, runner up, he doesn't tell you.
It was a good experiment.
All right, why don't we start with you right there, sir?
Hey, we on? I'm probably going to get shot down for this, so I'll word it in a different way. How much decision...
There's still time to back down.
No, I can't face my friends if I back down now.
All right.
Daryl with the crossbow is back here, by the way. So,
how much input do you get in casting characters that are brought directly from the comic book? And can we get Henry Rollins as Negan, please?
I like Henry Rollins. He's actually a really good actor. You've seen him in a lot of stuff. That would be neat. Can't comment specifically on any casting stuff. Who knows if Negan's ever going to appear in the show? He's definitely going to appear in the show. But who knows?
Sorry, Steven.
Who knows? And again, we don't adapt things directly. You never know. Also, wouldn't it be like kind of obvious if we did the exact same thing from the comic?
I'll kill him.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll kill him.
But we do get a lot of suggestions about people who they'd love to see. We get a lot of email, a lot of calls about, have you thought about, and his name's come up before.
Yeah, but I mean, as one of the executive producers, I definitely have, a lot of input as to who gets cast, unless you're out there and you're an actor, and then I have no pull. I can't help you. I'm really sorry.
Is there a veto power, though, involved?
I mean, I think that we all work together as producers so that we all are on the same page most of the time, and there have been some times where, we've had spirited discussions, but there's never been any need for a veto power. But if there was a veto power in existence, I would be the one that has that power.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, we'll go over here now.
Yes, hi. When I was in college, I studied social philosophy, and the strange thing about it is how relevant it is to your show. So, like, the governor, he's sort of like this Joseph Stalin character, charismatic, but like doing horrible things. And you have like a lot of themes like justice is the will of the stronger. Then you have like these little sub-societies like the Daryl joins the guys who claim everything,
Right.
sort of like Nevada, the gold rush. So I'm just wondering, do you have specific influences in terms of your ideas of creation of society philosophically that influenced you?
This is where everyone learns how not smart I am. But I think Scott Gimple is a tremendously intelligent human being and probably does, the claimer thing was definitely, his creation. And I'm a fan of human nature. I love, just trying to be a bystander in life and like paying attention to the different ways that people's minds work. And because I think it's fascinating that, all of us are actually substantially different and we don't really notice it or we don't really pay attention because most of us are so narcissistic. We just assume that everyone is making the same decisions based on the things that we're basing them on, but I think it's actually not the case. And so, just as a fan, I like, read up on stuff like that. And, I try to spitball, different things, but I'm certainly not educated in those things. So I'm just winging it.
Well, I think you're selling yourself a little short, Rob. He is.
Yeah. Robert's super dumb.
Exactly. It is. It's a drag. We pull him along. But I know you've said before that you've studied sort of the breakdown of society after World War II and looked at used that as an inspiration and sort of chronicling the breakdown after a zombie apocalypse.
I did try to study like different periods in time where things were somewhat apocalyptic, just as like just to see how people deal with that stuff. But
over here,
that's not fun to talk about.
And then you stick the knife in the zombie, and it's funny.
Crossbow.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm a Walking Dead addict. So I've been an extra a few times on the show, and I live near Atlanta, and I really enjoy being on set. So I'm just curious if you've thought about it, how many seasons you might go from this point, how long you would like it to go, or is it kind of like the comics, you're just going to wing it?
How many seasons do we get to go, Charlie?
Well, many as we can.
I think we're in a unique position in that the show is very successful, but this isn't the kind of show where the creative team is going to say, it's important to us that we end it here, which I think is something that happens with a lot of television shows. I think that the story that we're trying to tell is so big, and the framework is set in the comics. I think I'm producing more than 12 issues a year with artist Charlie Adlard, and all of that stuff is stuff that we would like to someday adapt into the show, and it's something that Scott Gimple and I talk about a lot. And I think that because our story is so large, the potential is there for us to go, a lot of seasons without us losing the integrity that you sometimes do on a TV show when you go past your season 7 or 8 mark, when people, start getting less interested in it and everything. Just because our long-term goal was to tell this unrealistically massive, huge story. So by going season after season after season, we actually are maintaining the integrity of what we originally set out to do. Yep. So I think there's a possibility to go for many, many years, but if everybody stops watching it next year, season 7 will be the last one.
Well, I do think he wasn't joking about the hopefulness of the series. I think you look at Alexandria and you see that it is a bit of a rebuild, and it's certainly a reset for these characters. I don't know how you felt when you saw Carol in the sweater the first time, but that's a moment we haven't seen in a while. And I do think the evolution of this story and how fresh it becomes and how real it is to the earlier question and relatable makes it something that can go for a long while.
I would like some of those fresh baked cookies, though. Those are delicious.
Those cookies come with a price.
But there is you look at Doctor Who, started in 1963, and that's a franchise that still exists today. Right. So there is precedent in some ways.
Yeah, we're going 50.
So there you go, 50 seasons. You heard it here first.
Up yours, Simpsons.
Over here.
How's it going? Victor the Snake Man with Corbett Images. One, how long from opening show?
What's up, Snake Man?
Opening show to season finale. How much time has passed?
I don't know.
I mean, is it like a year? Is it 5 years?
It's a number of years. Look, someone online is going to go, no, it's not.
Right.
I don't pay attention to that.
Well, I was just wondering, it leads into my question. I understand Steve can't shave yet because he's not old enough, but how come most of the people don't look like me?
31.
Is there still Rite Aids and barbershops? And how come they're all like perfect hair? And it just seems so fake.
Well, it is fake. It's not real.
No, I know. I'm just going on the absurd. Look, and then I could be in your show. I fit.
Yeah, look, I mean, I can sit there with you and go, when was that lawn last mowed? Which
right.
is, it's a thing.
Also, I can shave, but this is all that grows. So.
And we were just saying Daryl needs a good scrub, so he needs a good scrubbing.
Look, there's definitely some hygiene going on. There's some people brushing their teeth every now and then, combing their hair, things that you don't see. I would prefer to see like a good 8-minute scene of somebody putting themselves together in the morning, but I always get vetoed. But you don't see them go to the bathroom very often. There are certain things that are left to the imagination.
Yeah, that's probably one of them. Right. Over here.
I think a good Daryl Dixon bathroom scene.
That would destroy the internet. That
picking
gif.
out just the right leaves.
This question is for Robert. You laugh a little bit about canon, but I wonder, in your world, on your napkins that you've scribbled on,
I use real paper, don't insult me.
All right.
He actually uses the same pencil he used when he wrote the comic book years ago.
My dad in 7th grade gave me a Pentel mechanical pencil, and I've plotted every story I've ever written on paper with that very pencil, and if I ever lose it, my career will be over.
Right. It'll be because one of those stalkers outside stole it and is selling it on eBay as we speak.
So that kind of goes to my question. In your world, did you start when Rick wakes up, or does your world start when the virus starts, and do you have a beginning and an end, and where are you kind of in that arc?
There's a beginning and an end for sure.
That you've written.
I know the origins of the zombie apocalypse. I just think it's boring to explain it. So there is definitely, a story there. I know what happened. There are things that don't contradict it in the story, but you may not notice that kind of stuff. There is certainly story that led up to before Rick woke up that is in my head that'll never get told. And, I do know what my end point is, but as to where I am exactly on that story, I can't say because I don't want to reveal that. But it's, there's many years ahead.
So when you're in the writer's room and one of the writers suggests something that doesn't fit in that arc, do you say, you can't do that, but I can't tell you why? Or do they know, are they in the same space as you?
It very rarely comes up because we are so focused on on a cross-section in time and adapting different things. There will be times where I'll say, we can totally do that with that character, but if we do that with that character here, if we adapt this stuff in season 7, we'll have to change it. So we need to decide if we're willing to change that before we do this. And that's helpful, but there's never been a time where they've been like, hey, let's end it this way. And I'm like, well, guys, I can't tell you. Although in season 3, there were a couple of times where I didn't really acknowledge how much the writers on the show enjoyed reading the comics. And so I would just go, well, you know, this and this and this are going to happen. And they'd all be like, what? Oh, God, I can't believe you did this. So I spoiled a few things, but I haven't done that since because they seem to care.
I know you've said...
I felt silly because I would like stop myself. Well, you know, eventually we're going to do this. And then I'd go, ooh. And then I was like, these guys are pros. They know this stuff better than I do. They don't care what's happening in the comics. It's good for them to have this information. I was wrong.
Yeah,
they're not pros at all.
Robert,
fans.
You've said in the past that you've actually already written the finale, that you have it in a drawer somewhere. Is that still the case?
No, I never said that. Your information is incorrect. I know the story.
Yeah.
I've never bothered to write it down.
But you haven't written it down?
Let's hope I don't die today.
All right. Next question over here.
Firstly, when I hear canon at the NAB show, I think DSLRs are going to show up in the zombie apocalypse, which could be interesting.
Need them.
Michael Cudlitz was here yesterday at another panel, and he was speaking a lot about, he was talking about Southland, his character in Southland, and the relatability and the letters he's
He is
gotten.
forbidden to talk about other shows. What is he doing?
Well, he talks a little bit about Walking Dead. But he was talking about the relatability of the characters and that being why people love the show so much. And I wanted to ask Steven and Robert, just if you could talk about that a little bit, you know, just how fans are responding based on how relatable these characters really are.
That's always an interesting thing that I love to observe is what people choose to, how they choose to view the show. There's different types of characters on our show. Not that every character isn't somehow accessible to someone and to say like, I can be like that person. I think that's available for every character, but I think there are some characters where it lends itself to being in awe of that person as opposed to actually relating to that person. And so as a viewer, you can either choose, do I want to be in awe of these characters, or do I want to choose or find someone that heavily relates to me? What's been fun about Glenn is I feel like he fills that relatable portion where he does have weaknesses, he does have strengths, and it's fun to see kind of like what an average guy would turn into, hopefully, in the best conditions. And then there's people like Daryl who are amazing, and you look at them and say like, that guy is awesome, I want to be that guy. But, and not to say that there's not a relatability there, but I think there's a little bit more awe in his direction. And that's always interesting too, because it depends on who you talk to. I know a lot of people that will say, why aren't you more badass this season? And for me, I'm like, I'm actually just, we're playing it how this character would play it out. And sometimes, you know, I don't want to knock on that aspect of it, but that word badass gets thrown around a lot. And I think it's fun to see people watch the show as an entirety, to see why Carol exists, why Gabriel exists, why all these different characters exist, because they're all facets of every single person. And I think that's what ultimately makes the show really enjoyable to watch.
And badass.
Badass.
Such a badass show.
Over here, please.
So when you're talking about the companion series, and you've kind of done that with Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, the spin-off series. And I know the Walking Dead based on the comic book, but you've said that's not really something that you stick to 100%. Has the idea of any sort of AMC crossover come across your mind before?
The Mad Men episode is going to be...
Please.
Sorry.
No, these worlds, and you've heard it from these guys in chapter and verse, these worlds are so important to us. Maintaining the integrity of the world is so important to us that I wouldn't go there. And I, even refrain from calling Fear the Walking Dead a spin-off series, because it's not like we're plucking out characters and putting them in a different world. This is, the question I got the most on the plane is what's happening in the rest of the world during this zombie apocalypse. And you get a guy like Robert who has more story to tell and thinks he can shed light onto that world, and that's what made us go forward. But we didn't rush into it. The thing's been a numerical success for a while, but it was when they had enough story to tell to make that world credible, just like the original is. That's when we decided to go forward.
Although this season on Turn, George Washington spies are zombies.
That's right.
That's
exactly.
the big twist. Over here.
Hi guys, my name is Edwin. Big fan.
Hey, Edwin.
2 questions. First off, Robert, you have a lot of content already going on with the comics and the show. How does it feel to be able to go back to like the roots and creating that story? Is it something that you already had in your mind, or is it something that you're kind of going through the process right now?
I certainly had like notions and ideas on like what the early stages of the apocalypse were like, but I'd never really sat down and actually written it. There was a volume 0 that I was going to do for a little bit of Walking Dead that kind of showed Shane's story getting to, the camp and everything, and I never really ended up doing it. But it always had it in the back of my mind to like go back and do that stuff. But the real fun aspect of working on Fear the Walking Dead for me is that I was 23 when I created The Walking Dead, and I am now not 23. I'm so much not 23, it's not funny. And so, and one of the real cool things about The Walking Dead for me is that my life has evolved along with the evolution of that story, to the point where, when I was writing early Rick and Carl stories, I was kind of playing on my relationship with my father a little bit, and now when I write them, I'm thinking of my relationship with my son, who didn't exist when I started The Walking Dead. Quieter time in my life, but being able to, be charged, by AMC to go, hey, you did that stuff when you were 23. Let's see if you can do it again. Was, really fun for me to be able to sit down and try and compete with myself and think like, what kind of Walking Dead would old, lazy, fatter Robert do, as opposed to faster, younger, quicker, better. Man, I wish I was still 23, Robert. And we'll see how those two things stack up. But it's been a lot of fun trying to compete with myself.
Cool. And secondly,
it's like in the new Terminator movie when Arnold Schwarzenegger fights the young Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator. It comes out on July 1st. I'm very excited.
All right. Secondly, will you guys sign my comic?
Well, sure.
All right.
Security you can get past security. Let's do that. I do not have a marker, so do bring a marker.
I think we have time for one more question. So,
Good morning. I came all the way from Alaska in the hopes that Mr. Yeun would sign a Glenn character for my nephew's school auction.
Yeah.
But that is not my question.
Sure.
We don't even have a TV. And my partner is not interested in television, so I go over to a friend's house, and she DVRs it, and we sit there on the couch saying, shoot him, Glenn, shoot him. But when I'm trying to explain to my sweetheart, why do I like this show so much, and I said, it's because it's about what it means to be human. Yep. Not only have all those walkers had what's human about them stripped away, our memories, make us human, but the people who are left have to choose to be human and not to be animals. And I'm wondering if that's going through your head when you're writing these things. What kind of people are we looking at here? People who, like Rick, have to become animalistic, or people who refuse to become animalistic and become, food?
Yeah, Scott Gimple and I talk about this a lot. We had a very long discussion about my pessimistic views of humanity and his optimistic views of humanity, and I waffle back and forth. But I don't know. I think that it's absolutely terrifying how quickly a human being can go from being like like you yourself. You seem like a very nice individual, but you were watching a television show and you were saying, I hope that human being kills that other human being, because that other human being is a piece of crap and he deserves to die.
But
and I'm sure you're
paraphrasing you.
Yeah.
I used a lot more cuss words. But I have family, and I would do whatever I needed to do to protect that family.
Yeah,
and that's what Rick and all of them are doing, and Carol, and thank God that she's getting badass. it's the middle-aged women you really got to watch.
I think that goes along with the last question, or the previous question about this, which is, you are on the scope of what you would do. You have one end of the spectrum which can do anything, and then the other end of the spectrum which is completely debilitated. And I will echo your same sentiment that when I got the script, I was like, oh man, I don't kill him. But at the same time, it was a struggle for me, because as a viewer or as a reader of this story, I was like, oh, it'd be so satisfying if that happened as a story. Yeah. But what we're trying to tell is something very human. And I think in that regard, I can also very much see myself not being able to pull that trigger. And I think that is the beauty of the show, is that it enters and seeks out certain scenarios that we have no idea what we would do, but we tried to pose an intelligent answer to that. And I think for me, that was what was most satisfying about that particular scene.
Sure.
Thank you. And also, both my brother and my dad are named Glenn, so.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. I think we need to get her a TV, though.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're at an 8.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, when can we see Fear the Walking Dead, and when is Walking Dead back season 6?
You will see Fear the Walking Dead this summer, and then we will be back into season 6 of Walking Dead the week following in early October.
Early October, and you guys go back production in a couple weeks. So, Walking Dead, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having us. Thank you very much. Nice job.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, a big round of applause for Robert Kirkman, Charlie Collier, Steven Yeun, and fantastic moderation by Michael Schneider of TV Guide. Thank you so much for an amazing morning. Thank you for joining us. Our next session is at 10:30, and we will see you then. Thank you.